Blog Talk Radio.
Hello, this is Call Talk for Wednesday, April 28th. Our topic today is agent burnout, what's a manager to do, tips and tales. During the call, we invite you to ask questions via email at calltalk@benchmarkportal.com or chat if you're logged into calltalk.tv, or call and ask the host your questions and interact with the show. The number to call in is 347-857-3117. Everyone who asks a question on the show via email or phone will receive a free copy of Bruce's book, Benchmarking at its Best, and one person will be chosen at random to win an in-depth reality check valued at $1,500. And now I'd like to introduce the host of Call Talk, Bruce Belfiore.
Thanks very much, Sean, and welcome everyone back to Call Talk. Our listeners, as always, chose today's topic, and today we're talking about agent burnout. What's a manager to do? A very, very important topic for a lot of us who have to deal with the human side of our call center on a daily basis. And my guest today is Drew Phelps, who has been on the show before, is always a delight, someone with really tons of experience in every aspect of call center industry management. She's a Purdue graduate, a co-author of the book Call Center Audit A to Z. And Drew is joining us today actually from Mexico, where I think she's definitely not suffering from burnout, maybe sunburn, but not burnout. Actually, she's down there with one of clients visiting a call center today. How are you doing today, Drew?
Muy buen, amigo. Thank you very much for inviting me back. I'm always good to share ideas on burnout and ready to practice my Spanish and give worldwide information. Thanks. Okay,
well, I'll lay there, lady. That sounds good. And, yeah, please have a couple of tequilas on me. In fact, maybe that should be our first recommendation to avoid agent burnout, right? Call center during the day, and what do we do at night?
There we go. I think that's great. We do have our celebration. So the agents, it's interesting. The agents have their own cultures. I see that throughout the United States. Every call center has their own culture, and there's a lot to talk about this half an hour about that fit.
Well, in fact, it's an important topic. It is very much dependent on the culture and the people in the call centers. It's certainly one that you and I are both passionate about, because ultimately the agent burnout thing, which is symptomatic, has an impact on people's lives, and it has a huge ripple effect to the whole center. In fact, one statistical proxy for burnout is agent turnover. Our database indicates that the average turnover for call centers in the Purdue database is 21.15%. That's actually down due to the economy. And we do see pathological turnover rates of over 60% and even over 100% in some cases. But anyway, we'll get on and talk about some of the tips and tales of people who have to confront this on a daily basis. In fact, let's talk for one more second about metrics. Drew, when we're looking at our benchmarking reports, what metrics can we look at to get an early warning on burnout in our center?
Well, I'm very glad you share that statistic, and 21% turnover is pretty phenomenal, and a lot of people are hanging their hat on that. But it's easily another 40% of the people inside the company that are just saying, I don't know if I love work. I like work, but I don't know if I'm in love with work. So one of the first signals I look for, and you might want to take notes on this, audience, is your adherence to schedule. People start getting a little bit more lax at their work if it just becomes a job, and you really want to give excelente service. So look for adherence to schedule, and if there's any early warning flags that people are just not being as respectful and responsive to their occupancy levels and their service levels. The second one to look for as an metric is their quality scores. Little things start to slip, like their attitude or their communication or their willingness. You can hear that in their tone and in their pace. Because a call center, they're taking about 60 calls a day. Well, guess what? That's impacting 1,200 customers every month. So you need to keep that one agent away from burnout. The third thing I see on scores is, as I'm visiting this center actually, is they compete with their peers. They have little contests. They have things that are going on. And sometimes in centers that are not really tuned to this, people just don't want to compete. I'm here to do my job. That is true burnout. Adherence, quality, and little contests inside your company. If people are not participating, they're suffering that sunburn.
Yeah. Well, great inputs. And don't you find also that burnout can be due to different things in different situations? Like, but I have what I call the four rhyming things, which are wrong person, pong person, long person, and gone person. And for the wrong person, we're talking about just a bad fit between the agent and the call center. So a big reason for the burnout is that you really didn't get the right person through the door to begin with. And you didn't take the effort to take a profile of those people who thrive in your center, who do well in your center, and then drive that profile of the person back to the recruiting stage. Do you want to comment on that a little bit, Drew?
Well, actually, in recruiting, let me get to my extra note here. In the recruiting stage, there's many things to look at. First of all, I had one company that very nicely, they're one of our centers of excellence, they looked at their brand. Their culture had to have an excellent fit with their brand of a call center. Some are very tight, want you to sit in your chair all the time, answer the calls, very more linear in their approach. Other brands are, come join the family, we have parties, we're very welcoming. You really have to, if you're looking for hiring the right agent and a good fit, make sure they're going to match your culture.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Need some more ideas? Are there any other calls coming in? I got 2 more ideas if you're ready. Or
well, I think that one of the things, too, is that we can sometimes have the wrong person in there so we don't screen properly. And then I have what I call the pong person, which is somebody who feels that they're just being batted around all the time. They feel like a ping pong ball. And, in those cases, you have to look to what it is that's causing that. Is it because there really is an overload of calls coming in, too many calls, no after-call work time? I mean, I remember being in one center, Drew, and you've probably seen this too, where the center had reported no after-call work time, and I thought, well, that's wonderful. That means that their knowledge management system and their CRM system, everything is good enough so that their people can do everything they need to do on the call. They don't need any after-call work time. I sat next to a few agents, and I started hearing the following. I started hearing, could you please hold while I finish up the record on the previous call? Okay. And effectively, in that center, people were just being bombarded with calls one after the other. And they, in fact, didn't have good systems. They didn't have good technology for knowledge management, et cetera. So what I think I'm saying here is that oftentimes burnout can be a symptom of other things that are wrong in the center, including technology, including some bad choices by management. In other words, in that case, there should have been time for after-call work time, and it can be perhaps predetermined or something where the agent pushes a button and puts themselves ready again and in and out of after-call work time. Or it could be, and in this case it was, there were too many screens that you had to go among. And so actually the number of desktop applications kind of was very frustrating and therefore caused a lot of agent burnout. Drew, why don't you go on with one of your other points?
That's very much true, especially in that hiring mode. I'll stay with my theme on hiring, because if you're training people and talking to people and even testing people on how they can manage the technology, you need to give them a realistic and an honest-to-goodness job preview of what their seat is going to look like every day. Mm-hmm. So if you have a candidate coming in, you might say, here's a video of our call center. So you see what the location looks like, what your cubicle looks like, et cetera. Here are some screens. You can privacy protect all that information, of course, because they're just candidates at that time. But, you want to show people, here's the kind of navigation skills that we look at. Now, I've been in a call center that has 2 screens up, and you have 4 navigations on each one of them. So that poor agent had to look at 8 different sources of knowledge to answer one call. I'm sure there's a lot of people that would get burned out pretty quickly with 8 screens to look at. Mm-hmm. So give them a real job preview of what your job's going to look like. because some people love. Age demographics is another one about burnout. Younger audience, they love to talk and type. They know about texting. They know about doing multi-skilling. But, if you have a job preview and you're going to start to look at reducing the burnout, there's a certain culture, certain fit that you want to match to that with your good job preview to say, look, I don't want to burn everybody out. This demographic is good for doing that kind of work. The other may not. We don't want to burn everybody out.
Yeah, no, good points. And I think the ones that we oftentimes sort of take for granted, we don't actually analyze them. But if you dig in, then you can find that the symptom actually leads you to things that you need to change in terms of your screening, in terms of your training, in terms of your technology. And it will actually give you the ammunition you need if you do a financial analysis to say, okay, you know what, I can probably reduce my turnover by X, and I can increase my productivity as seen through metrics like adherence and quality, et cetera, if I can have something. It might be a better screen navigation system, could be a better knowledge management system, but it's a great way of saying, I need something, and Mr. Manager, Senior Manager, I'll be able to improve my metrics and improve the productivity through these other metrics that you'll be able to measure actually through these other metrics. So I just to finish up with those, wrong, pong, long, and gone, the long person one is situations that I think a lot of us probably on the phone have to deal with, which are the people who've been there quite a while. They're starting to lose the fire in the belly, and you can see that, from last year to this year, the performance just isn't as good. And so here we need to have strategies for restoking them. And not always an easy thing to do, but it's worth trying. It's worth talking to them, worth mentoring them, and it's worth trying to find out those things that will inject some more fire into their belly again, either through rewards programs, through having more fun in the call center, whatever it happens to be. Do you have any thoughts on that, Drew?
Well, sure. I'm looking at your Pong person you were talking about. When people are bounced around to a lot of different things, they don't like change. You really have to be a little bit more amenable to that. So one of the big action items I would tell every supervisor on the phone right now, really to pay attention to listening when you have your one-on-one meetings. You need to find out what kind of style this person is. If you got the wrong person, really analyze that and look at the cost justification of keeping those people on staff. The Pong, put them in the right place. Maybe they love to do the multitasking like emailing and all the other stuff. Let their burnout, be a little bit more open rather than just at a cube with a headset on. You want the person that's going to be longevity and run the long, yards and so forth. So they're not leaving you unless we, have that need or so forth. I like the 4 ways you put that. I really do. I do have one idea. Sean, do we have any callers coming in yet?
Yeah, we have a couple questions. Bruce,
good. I'll hold that.
Can you monitor your chat, please?
Yes. Okay. So
the first question comes in from David. How can I support agent development in early years for success and retention?
Okay, Drew. What about that one?
Oh, can I raise my hand? Absolutely. We just did a little study on that, which was quite interesting. If you see turnover, in the first 90 days or so forth, you've hired them wrong. So really take a look at some of those things we talked about, like job preview and good fit, et cetera, and not getting the wrong selection. But in the first year, 1 or 2 or 3 years, that's when the burnout starts to occur. The job may be routine, but there's ways that you can do some things. And I'm going to give you 3 steps. Number 1, connection. People love to feel connected to their product, their service, their homegrown, their supervision, their teammates. They want to feel connected to the people. That will reduce your stress and burnout. When there's calls coming in and calls in queue and calls being routed, you might want to just, have some of that extra breathe time and extra rah-rah, that you can promote connecting. We're all in this together. Let's get through it. The second tip is contribute. Each one of your agents would love to contribute new ideas or would love to tell you, here's an issue. Please help me through knowledge management. I'm stuck. rather than just sitting with it stressfully in their own mind. So I have connection, contribution. The third one is probably around the third year, they really want to be part of an innovation team. I've got, what do we call it, the SWAT teams or the best of breed teams. They're talking about innovation for really, really energizing your call center. Now that can bring new life rather than the other side of the coin, which is burnout. Connection, contribution, and innovation will help you in those first years.
Mm-hmm. Okay, great. Sean, I think you have another question there as well.
This question comes from John. What questions could I ask during an interview to make sure someone meets your culture?
Mm-hmm. Okay, I'll pick that up, and then Drew, why don't you chime in? I think the first thing to do is to make sure you understand what your culture is. If you've been able to actually articulate what the culture is, then you'll be in a better position to ask questions about whether somebody can fit into the culture or not. Okay, if you're in, for instance, a call center that does collections, okay, that is going to require somebody who has very persuasive, sales-oriented personality. The same thing is true for a sales call center. For somebody in a inbound customer service call center, you're going to want to look for those characteristics that point toward a personality that wants to serve, that really gets a kick out of making a customer happy and having a good, successful call. So the questions that you ask, and in fact here, if I could just take one step back, David, I think was the name here, before you get to the stage of the interview, be sure and do the screen. And here there's some really good screening products where they answer questions and set up word associations that can tell you a lot about the person in terms of their personality and whether they'll fit into the kind of call center that you have. And if you actually look at the word associations used in those that have to do with, I like to, for instance, work with groups of people. I like to solve problems. I like to do a number of things at the same time. That you'll oftentimes get the questions that you need for the interview stage, which comes afterwards, and which hopefully will confirm whatever the screen told you. But since the screens won't always be 100% accurate, they will help you. Hopefully that will help you out on that. Drew, do you have further thoughts?
Yeah, exactly. For the interview area, it's good to listen more than you talk. In observation, I see a lot of the times we like to really, really give them an overload of information about the call center, but really see that their style and listen to where they've had some basic answers. For example, one question might be, what's the greatest value of time you contributed to service? Because a lot of companies say we want somebody who's been in the customer service mode. So a greater value or a greatest contribution or a question of that nature is very open-ended, number one. Number two, it can give you an insight to see if that's going to fit with what your call types are. Call types are pretty much the end result here, because if you have, again, like you're saying, a very financial structured one, you need to have someone who's more structured in those answered. So another one, is there anything that surprised you about our interviews today? I saw that on one person's interviewing scale, and I said, I love that question, because you're getting an insight from that person about, yeah, I didn't know that you had to sit in a chair for 7.5 hours a day, and I didn't know you had all these heavy quality scores. You get scored and recorded, and I just came here for the benefits for a part-time job. No, that's a real early warning signal that you're going to have an agent that's burned out or turned out on you.
Right. Okay,
so,
that's a great
two questions.
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think another question you might ask is, what did you enjoy most about your previous job, and what did you enjoy least about your previous job? And oftentimes you'll get admissions that you can interpret and utilize in terms of what, whether they will, in fact, fit into the needs and culture of your call center. Okay, Sean, do you have another one for us?
Yes. This question just came from a guest. He asked, or the person asked, how many skills do you recommend for a multi-skill agent?
Mm-hmm.
I have a rule of 3, and it's an own personal rule that there was one call center that actually it's AAA. And in AAA, you look at that, they have dispatch. That's a call type. They sell insurance, of course, for your automobile. That's another call type. And number 3 is they plan travel for you. Well, those are really 3 different distinguishing skills. In looking at their diversification, they said, you know what? If you learn and earn, in other words, learn the new skill, you can earn your way into taking on a second skill set. Maybe taking on a third skill set. And so based on that, 3 was our magic answer in doing those projects. I think that if you divert any more than that, it may have a disadvantage or may cause people, unless they have a very multitasking mind. Bruce, what's your opinion on that or story?
The question itself is a good one because it actually sort of has behind it the idea that one way to prevent burnout is to give people a variety of things to do. And that is oftentimes true. In other words, if you can have people advance through skills, give them more skills, and have them do more things, then they could be, if they're a certain kind of person, more likely to stay and not burn out because they're able to try different things. So here again, you have to understand who it is that you have in front of you. In some cases, people will find that stressful and will, in fact, burn out faster. So if you have the right kind of workforce management and the right kind of call routing system, you can actually personalize to the agents that you have, so that agent who feels more comfortable with one skill set, sticking to it, doing it well over and over again, then that's fine. Let them do that. For the person who wants to have more skills and help out in various different areas, have a routing system that allows them to get calls in a number of different areas. And keep in mind, too, that we do want to encourage it both for reasons of avoiding burnout, which has its high cost in terms of cost of turnover, and also in terms of workforce management, because if we have more people able to do more different things and handle different kinds of calls, it gives us more flexibility in terms of the call routing and the call handling side of things. Let me toss it back to you again, Drew, if you have any further thoughts on that.
Just to tag is, don't believe that everybody can be the universal agent. There is no magic number here. My own personal one was about 2 or 3 different skill sets. But quite frankly, the universal agent to do calls, inbound, outbound, email, fax, Skype, there's just too many for people to handle unless they raise their hand and you can test them on that performance.
Right. That's a key, absolutely key. And there's some centers that, in fact, want to encourage this to give them more flexibility to reduce burnout and provide a financial incentive. You get a higher pay, a slightly higher pay if you're able to handle more different kinds of calls. And that also encourages them to become more skilled and to pass the test, as Bruce said, necessary to do that. Okay, great. Sean, you've got another call coming in?
Yes. Mike asked, has there been any studies regarding whether job or duty rotation can ease burnout?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Kind of similar to what we just answered here about rotations and so forth. I like to put them in blocks if there is some kind of a job rotation. When the call volume's low, have them do things like training or even, developing new training ideas. So there can be, even in a 40-hour work week, if an agent is given 1 hour to do something, to do skill development or, that kind of a rotation. Bruce, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah,
because it is the multitasking.
It is the multitasking, and I can't put my finger on a specific study. It's more experiential. And I'd say that what you find is that the number of people who really just want to do one thing, stick to it, and do nothing else is pretty low. I mean, you're talking about at most 10% of your force, whereas most people do want to have variety in their life and do want to have different things that they can do. And so in that case, as long as the training is good enough, okay, so that they're really doing everything at a top level for the client, then it would be a good thing to do. If you give your information to Sean, we may in fact try to do some research on that. So who was the questioner in that case, Sean?
All I know is he put his name down as Mike. So, Mike, if you send an email to calltalk@benchmarkportal.com, we can maybe go further into your question.
Yeah, maybe we could do a 1-minute survey, which could be the beginning point of some more research on that area. So, thank you very much for that one. Good. Okay. Another area that we, I think, need to deal with, too, are the irate callers and the uncooperative customers type of situation, because they can be the source of burnout for a lot of people in a lot of centers. So you may be going along pretty well, and you've got, a majority of customers who are normal, rational people that you actually can be proud of how you took care of them. Then there's some of these irate callers that ruin your day. And how do you deal with your agents when, in fact, a good agent is having to deal with perhaps just a few irate callers, but which are really sort of ruining the psyche for them? And that's one where I think if we have some advice to give them, Drew, that would be a good one. And here my feeling is that a lot has to do with the mentoring relationship that supervisors have with agents and being supportive of people in those situations. I think that the characteristics that we're looking for are well-trained supervisors and managers, because under-trained supervisors and managers are really the bane of so many call centers where they're not knowledgeable enough, so they're not able to give the agents the information they need to do the good job with the customers. And maybe they don't have the managerial skills or haven't been taught the managerial skills, which would lead them to be more supportive and sort of more proactive, champions for their agents. I mean, it's sort of like a prize fighter. If you really get beat up during the round, at the end of the round, you go to your corner and you've got somebody to, buck you up, to help you out, to tell you that, you can do a good job. And in the case of a call center supervisor, in some cases say, take 5 minutes off, take 15 minutes off, have a cup of coffee, do something like that so that you can, in fact, get your feet back under you and your psyche back in shape. Drew, you want to comment on that at all?
I just gathered one piece of information here about those irate callers that came on an agent satisfaction study that we do as part of our, I'm feet on the street. I'm out there visiting the call centers each month. We do an agent satisfaction study, so this may be of interest to you as well. It said we have enough people for the workload we handle as a department, and it is a survey. We ask about 60 questions to the agents. That agent rated that as, nope, 20% agree with that statement. We do not have enough people. So I dug a little further with this questionnaire, and I said, well, what do you mean about not enough people? She says, the first time that I get to a call, people have to wait 60, 70, 80 seconds. They're saying, it's about time you got to my call. Now, if you hear that 60 times a day, you're going to be burned out.
Mm-hmm.
So, there again, giving that information to routing appropriately, getting more people on staff, et cetera. The tool that I'm talking about is an agent SAT study, and it gives you the insight again. I'm just going to read you 3 or 4 statements off of what this study captures. Because as my closing remark is, that agent, if he feels a sense that he belongs to your company, he's going to stay, she's going to make a contribution, she's going to have innovation for you and be a good, active agent. Here's some comments we quizzed them on. My leaders' actions are consistent with their words. I feel my personal growth is encouraged here. When issues are raised, they're followed up on. Creative thinking. I enjoy the work I do most days. The leadership vision is clearly communicated. This is what we rate when we go do an agent satisfaction study. It gives us insight to burnout or to those that are going to be excellent. So another tool, another survey that we have in our little toolkit as a resource. And that's my final comment because I love to use that.
Okay. No, that's great. That's great. Sean, do we have one more? Do we have time for one more?
Yeah, we have time for one more. Tim's question is, as a new manager who has inherited a burned-out team, how do you quickly motivate the group to turn performance attitudes around?
Okay. Tim, margaritas.
I thought the same thing, Bruce.
Yeah, this is this is actually your biggest challenge, a huge challenge, but also a real opportunity to prove yourself as a manager. Not easy, but really what you can do by finding out through, for instance, the tool that Drew was just talking about. If you have that tool utilized, you come up with so many good things that you can do at a low cost that all of a sudden people will start opening their eyes and saying, you know, Tim came in and things started to change. That's what you want, Tim. You want people to say, Tim came in and he started to understand us. He started to change things. And we went into one situation last summer in which things were going way downhill, and we found out that there was a number of things. People wanted an ice maker in the sandwich room. They wanted a couple of other things that didn't cost a lot of money, but which the manager came through on, and all of a sudden they said, somebody's listening to us. The other thing is that the manager started to stay near the front door every morning when people came in and greet everybody by name. Well, when we did the agent chat thing later on, people were blown away by that. So if you take the personal touch, get to know the people, tell your supervisors that they need to know the people and they need to be able to motivate them. Give them a couple of tangible things that you can actually show them as a win and which came from the agent satisfaction survey itself. Then you can say to them, thank you for that input. We've made this change, and we're looking for better and better atmosphere and relationships going forward. I'll stop there. And Drew, do you have something more you wanted to add?
I think we've really hit on a lot of different tools. Hope you took some good notes today. And don't forget, do not suffer burnout yourself, managers. Siesta.
Good point.
Siesta.
Good point.
Thank you.
Excellent. Okay. Listen, thanks everybody for being with us. Drew, it's always a delight to talk with you and be with you. And Sean, over to you at this point. Thanks to everybody for joining us.
I want to thank our co-host, Drew Phelps, for all her great insights in today's show. I want to thank all the participants for all their great questions. Those that we did not get to, we will answer through email. Everyone who did ask questions via chat, please send me your contact information to calltalk@benchmarkportal.com, and we'll make sure you get a copy of your free book. Don't forget you can sign up for our reality check to see how your agent satisfaction compares to others in your industry. And our winner today of the in-depth reality check is John. John, you asked a question via email. Can you resend your email to us so we have your contact details? The topic for our next Call Talk show in 2 weeks is... sorry, I'm just trying to grab it. On May 12th, it's Adherence, the Problems, the Policies, and the Best Practices. Thank you very much for attending our show today, and have a great day.